You may have encountered the shutter speed limiter function in your LUMIX camera when shooting in video mode and wondered what it is. Let me show you. If we go into the video menu under image quality page 1, you'll find shutter speed limiter. And if we press the display button, it gives us a hint of what this does. It says it limits the shutter speed so it does not become slower than the set frame rate. Well, what does that mean? Let's say you're shooting 30 frames per second. If you slice up a second into 30 slices, then each slice is 1/30th of a second long, which means that the exposure for that 1/30th of a second slice of time can't possibly be longer than 1/30th of a second, or else it would bleed into the next slice or the next frame. And the shutter speed limiter prohibits you from doing that. It's on by default, but if you turn it off, then you can actually have a shutter speed that is longer than a single frame of video. Well, how does that affect the video? Well, it essentially means that you have duplicate frames. You'll have a longer exposure that spreads across multiple frames of video, giving you a very smeary, stuttered effect. Before we see what that effect looks like, let's see what happens if you leave the setting on, which is the default setting. I'll go ahead and set it to on, and I'm also going to change my SS gain operation from angle mode to seconds mode. Not only is it easier to understand here, it's also the only way that it works. If you're in angle mode, this function won't do anything. In seconds mode, if I look at my shutter speed, it's currently set to 1/50th of a second. I'm shooting at 25 frames per second, or 25p, so the lowest shutter speed I should be able to select is 1/25th of a second. And sure enough, if I bring the shutter speed down, you'll see that 25 is the lowest that I can go. If, however, I go back into the menu and turn off the shutter speed limiter, now I can go even lower. Except that I can't. That's because there's another limitation in here that isn't really clearly documented. You can only do this in manual focus mode. The camera won't autofocus if it's in this slower than the frame rate mode. So let's go ahead and switch the camera into manual focus. And now I can turn this down as low as I want. So I'll take it down to 1/4 of a second, which at 25 frames per second is about 4 of the same frames per second that we're going to see. And let's take the neutral density down a little bit to make it darker. And now if I put my hand in front of the frame, you can see this big, smeary, stuttered look that we're getting, because each frame is 1/4 of a second exposure, which means we're getting an effective frame rate of around 6 frames per second. Now, I also said that this doesn't work if you're in shutter angle mode, and let me show you what happens there. I'm going to switch the camera back to shutter angle mode. And in shutter angle mode, the largest angle I can shoot at is 357 degrees. I said 360 degrees in the video the other day because that is technically effectively what you're shooting at, but the camera does need to have a little bit of time to reset the sensor. So 357 is the maximum. So if you want to have that smeary shutter look, you're going to have to go into the seconds/ISO mode and into manual focus.